Hello again, friends. It's Bill, back for day 2 of the COVIDeo diaries. Last night I survived, and so did everyone else that I was taking care of. But I was admitting patients from the ER, so patients to the floor rather than to the ICU from the ER. So not everyone in the hospital survived, I'm sure, but I did, so that's good. Supposed to be on the floor taking care of people, but they had things together up there. So I went down to the emergency room and started admitting patients. And the first thing that I want to say is, like, yes, PPE shortages are a thing, but also, even when you have the stuff, it is genuinely hard to use. The N95 under a surgical mask with a face shield and the gowns and the gloves, the order of taking things on and putting them on and taking them off is challenging to not contaminate everything else that you're touching. To not, in like taking off the surgical mask to then touch your N95 and compromise that. It's a whole thing. It's definitely challenging. And so even while I'm sure that some of these news stories are right and that insufficient PPE is responsible for a lot of healthcare worker cases, I'm also sure that just improper use despite the best intentions. And I mean, we got trained. I didn't have in-person training, but I had a video that I was strongly encouraged to watch about PPE use, so I did. So I know what I'm doing, but it's the kind of thing where it's just not natural motions, and so unless you've practiced it 130 times, it's actually kind of hard to do. So anyway, now I'm convinced that I have COVID, which I probably don't. It seems unlikely. We'll find out in about a week. Admitting COVID patients was not particularly challenging, as I didn't really think it would be. It's pretty algorithmic. We are using hydroxychloroquine for all patients who are hypoxemic from COVID, effectively if they have a confirmed COVID swab. And we are now swabbing, at this point, every single person who gets admitted, just because it becomes important to know. It's important for their clinical course to understand whether that's contributing. The patient I remember most from last night was COVID negative, actually. He was a pretty standard admission in any other political climate. Middle-aged guy who just doesn't take meds for his various conditions. He's got some bad diabetes and some bad chronic kidney disease, and he was basically here with some non-specific abdominal pain, which could have been 100 things. And what he really needs is a great primary care doctor, and to get him to the point where he can stay out of the hospital for long enough to go and see a great primary care doctor. I think what he needed was an admission for some med titration, get him on a dose of insulin that actually does something, get him to figure out how to use it, do some education, like capture him now that he's in the ER, like get him in here, do the education, get him tied in. And because our hospital is just completely overwhelmed in COVID patients, I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen. I'm pretty sure that despite the efforts of those taking care of him, which again, this is not to fault anyone, this is just the reality of when people are staying 36 hours in the emergency department. Nursing staff in the emergency department they're not staffed to do internal medicine down there. They're not staffed to like administer an enema or to, I don't know, really do anything that is labor intensive. They can give like routine meds, but even then, if it's like 3 times a day meds, that's work that their staffing is not really set up for. They're meant to see people, collect a bunch of labs, do a bunch of procedures, stabilize people, and then move on. And then when they get stuck doing chronic care, it's not what the system's designed for. So I think that this guy is the face of the coronavirus negative victims of coronavirus to me. I'll remember him, I think. So anyway, I slept, which is good. Better than I used to. I slept like 7 hours, 6.5, which is just pretty good. I feel good about that. And I'm going to go back in and probably do the same thing, probably go to the ER again and just start admitting patients and see how it goes. So, feeling a little tired, a little run down already. Yeah, night 1 of 7. 6, actually, I'm going to get out of night 7 thanks to some kindness from some colleagues. But I think I helped some people, and nothing horrible happened, so we're going to dive back in and see what happens tonight. Hope these are interesting. As I said, they're mostly for me, but if you're enjoying them too, that's great. Shout out to my corporate sponsor, Macrolease. I'm kidding. My my father-in-law is the CEO of Macrolease and is apparently forcing his employees to watch this. Just I assume that it's under penalty of severe retribution. Probably not. I know the guy's pretty nice, but like, probably. Thanks very much, guys. Have a good night.